Let's talk tourism.
Hans Pfister, one of the best known hotel operators in the country. One of my first questions for you is,
One
do
of the
you,
few left, right?
right? Cayuga Hospitality Management, one of the best known, most respected hotel operators in the country. Also do a little bit in Panama and Nicaragua. Let's talk tourism.
Good
First
morning,
question I
Casey.
have for you, thank you, is do you know how many total properties you've managed over your nearly 20 years doing this?
Oh boy. Uh, well, right now the portfolio is 7. We were at some point in time at 10, but there has been some changes, and especially in the early years, there was quite a bit of things. So I would say it's probably 20, 25. I'd say something around that. And you know, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, and all coasts and mountains and yeah, quite a few. Learned quite a few lessons in the last 20 some years.
So that was my next question. How long have you worked in tourism?
Well, I started working if you don't count my bartending while I was in high school, I started
It
working in
counts.
tourism in I really started in 1991 did my apprenticeship in Black Forest in southern Germany
Hmm.
in a 5-star hotel, 3-star Michelin. So that's where I really got started, and then I went on to study hotel management in upstate New York at Cornell, and then came to Costa Rica. So I've been in Costa Rica since 1999, really. I'm sorry, 1994. Went back to Germany a couple years, and then without interruption since 1999. I've been here for a while.
Yeah, that's roughly the same as me. How did you fall into tourism? How did you get into the business? Or when did you know this was going to be a career?
Well, there was really nothing, nothing in my family had, with tourism. I just always liked traveling, international, the world, was always interesting for me to get out in the world and get to know things. And I did like, bartending, service, making people happy and all of that. So it just automatically came together, and I said, yeah, I want to do hotel business, tourism. That's just something that I feel passionate about, and yeah, that's how it happened.
And then you ended up in upstate New York at a fairly well-known tourism school, Cornell.
Yeah,
And what was
spending some ugly winters up there,
ooh, and what was that like
but
for you? What was
but but met my wife, who is Costa Rican, and that's how I ended up here. And met my business partner, Andrea, who's also Costa Rican. So, Cornell, Ithaca treated me really well. No complaints.
all right, fair enough. So in the 20-year span that you've been here operating on the ground level in Costa Rica, what do you see that has changed the most in the tourism industry?
Um, I think it's become more of a business. Before it was kind of a little bit more. It was more pura vida before. It was less people. Everything was very familiar. It was just more easygoing maybe. But in the last years, as the numbers increased and as the stakes got higher, it really became more of a business. Which,
Mm,
on the one hand, is also a good thing, because it really meant that there's a lot more employment, a lot more opportunities. But I think it just got professionalized quite a bit in the last years.
great point. When you walk, is it difficult for you when you're traveling and consuming tourism, consuming hotel service, et cetera, to not still have your Cayuga hat on? Meaning, like, are you critiquing?
No, you know what? A lot of people ask me that, and it's very hard for me to let go when I'm in one of my hotels. I
Hmm.
always see things, I always observe things, but when I'm traveling somewhere else, no, I'm enjoying.
Good
I
for you.
have the capacity to turn that off and really enjoy the experience, and that makes me a much more likable travel companion for my family or for my friends.
Well, then I'll ask this follow up and you can tell me if it's irrelevant. When you do walk into a property, let's say it's a property where you're considering managing, what are the first things you check out, to have a quick Cliff's Notes idea of is this place falling
Yeah.
apart or not?
Well, I think one thing, it always comes back to that location, 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 right? So location is very, very important. So where is it located? And then looking at the infrastructure, if it's not perfect, but can it be adjusted? Can it be fixed? Can it be done? But for us, when we go into a property, the most important thing for us is not necessarily the hotel itself; it's the ownership. We really have to be aligned with the values of the owners of the hotels. Otherwise, it's not working.
Mhm.
And we have such a close relationship and we have such a specific focus on sustainability and luxury that we really need to make sure that we click with the owners, and then the magic happens. So that's the most important thing, really.
And if you were to describe in a few sentences, what do you think, what is the Cayuga brand? When I walk, I think I have a pretty clear idea when I walk into a Cayuga property or when you guys have taken
Mhm.
over a place, what the feeling is. What are
Mhm.
you guys trying to achieve? How would I know if I went into a Cayuga property in
Yeah,
Guatemala? How would I
yeah.
how would I quickly know it's Cayuga?
Okay, I think what we're trying to do is find that symbiosis of luxury and sustainability. There's luxury hotels and there's diehard eco lodges, and we're trying to bring that together. And really have that symbiosis of luxury and sustainability. The other thing that's really important in our hotels is the people factor. We're a very human company, so the way that people welcome you, people talk to you, the way that people feel about working at that hotel. I think that's the other thing that you immediately feel, okay, there's something going on, and we've gotten that a lot in the last months from the domestic market that has gotten to know our properties that we've been open for 3-4 months now. And they said one thing that really struck us is the authenticity and the pride that the staff have in working in this hotel and making, sharing this experience.
That's probably one of the few blessings, well, there's probably more than a few, that have come out of this pandemic has been Costa Ricans rediscovering Costa Rica.
Yes.
And when they arrive at properties at the level of Cayuga run properties, what's their surprise? Is there something like, we didn't know X?
Yeah. Yeah. So I was kind of skeptical with the domestic market when we said, okay, we're going to open for domestic market, but I was proven wrong. So these travelers that normally would have been in the last few months at a cruise in Antarctica or a safari in Africa or wine tasting in Tuscany, or all of those places that they typically would go to, stayed in Costa Rica, visited us at Cura, Arenas del Mar, Puerto Viejo, in Aguas Claras, Senda, and were just said, wow, didn't realize that this level of a hotel experience actually existed in my backyard. And what's really interesting to see is they started at one hotel. We first opened Senda and Aguas Claras, so maybe they went there first, and then as we opened the other properties, they started to say, okay, now let's go to Arenas del Mar and Manuel Antonio, now let's go to Cura. And so they became like checking off each hotel, because they felt the consistency in the service, in the quality. I think they were very impressed in the beginning by our health protocols, and by now they take it for granted, right? It's like, okay, I go to a Cayuga property, I don't have to worry. They have it covered because we have a standard across the properties, and I think that helps a lot.
I'm a huge believer that tourism is an economic accelerator. Just like you mentioned, you start attending bar. It's a great place for people in remote places to start out somewhere and often end up all the way in management,
Yes,
frequently ownership. I'm sure in 20 years we all have stories of somebody who started as a carrying suitcases and now owns something.
absolutely.
Do
Lots
you
of them.
have do you have a handful of, or do you have a favorite Cayuga success story of somebody who started with you 18 years ago and now has gone
Yeah.
on to
Well, I have
something?
I have many. There's two that stand out. One is a construction worker at Arenas del Mar that really was laying brick, for the buildings, and today is our operations manager. So he's the number two manager of this one of the most successful boutique hotels in Central America. Back then, he didn't speak Spanish, never worked in hospitality, and just worked his way up, through the ranks. And so Rodbin's story in Arenas del Mar is really a very special one. And the other one, and you know that story, is Mareke, who walked into one of our lodges as a 17-year-old asking for a job at reception, and 10 years later was general manager. And as she left that lodge and then went on to travel around the world for a couple of years, you hired her at your hotel afterwards. So you got to know her, and you've seen how she's come through through the ranks. And I think those stories really are just the things that make me so happy, that drive me so much. And there's many more, right? Two examples we could go on, and I could tell you for each hotel, different stories. And that's what really drives us, is making sure that we continue to develop those stories, and we continue to have more and more of those people join us.
I really think we in the region need to do a better job of touting that element of tourism. I don't think that maybe the central economic planners quite understand what an incredible impact that has. And the
Yeah.
thing that I've seen, particularly at your properties, that's also amazing, is there aren't necessarily that many opportunities in the normal world for a waiter to connect with a hedge fund manager. Where very often these service people will have incredible exchanges
Oh
with
yeah.
with world-class wealthy people,
Yeah.
um, who can teach them things and form
Absolutely.
legitimate relationships there, end
And
up getting scholarships, end up studying in the United States. It's just incredible, some
right.
of the weird serendipity
Yeah.
that occurs.
And our people teach them, right?
Of
I
course.
think that's the other beauty, is that you get the guide or the driver, to share their story, and they teach them lessons that might even be more impacting,
Right.
right? So it's a both way. There's always something I liked about tourism here in Central America. It's not the African or Asian model of, guest is here, server is here.
Yeah.
Everybody's a little bit more on the same level, and interact and talk to each other and laugh together, and make jokes as they get to know each other during their stay. So I think that connection is something that's really special and very, very, very good. And that's something that we definitely encourage at our hotels, that interaction between staff and guests.
I don't know what it is about Costa Ricans. We would need a sociologist to explain this. Perhaps it's because there was no gold and, some cacique system here of total dominance. But Costa Ricans are very comfortable approaching and interacting with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
like you're saying, at that peer level, not so much like, here's your shrimp cocktail, sir.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Well,
unique.
but Casey, here's the interesting thing. So yes, it comes natural to Costa Ricans, but we've been able to actually, export that model to our lodges in Nicaragua and Panama.
Yeah.
So we've been able to teach our staff there to do the same thing. And yes, they were a little bit more hesitant in the beginning, but I think it also happens when tourism is new to a region. So as we are now having more presence in the southern Caribbean area, Puerto Viejo, there was something that was not quite as present there, but
Yeah.
little by little we're also seeing that happen more. So I think it's something that people have it in them, but somebody needs to untap that potential and let it come out, and then it really does great things.
You mentioned the domestic marketing, domestic consumers being one post-pandemic change. Are there any other parts of your business model or any assumptions that you've had to question, uh, you know, as we all attempt to adapt in this recovery mode? Is there anything you're like, why were we doing that? Or we should do something, pivot towards something a little bit different?
Um, I don't think I don't really see radical changes. I don't see everything like falling apart, and I think the things that worked before, and the things that have worked for us in terms of our guest experience, I think are just getting even more important. So I don't really see the pandemic as something that changes everything 100%. It just accelerates things. So um, a couple of things. So experiences are becoming more important. Being really a little bit away from it all, and not being in those mass tourism destinations is important. And for us internally as a company, I think it just accelerated our focus on efficiency. We realized, oh, we don't need this, we don't need that, we don't need an office, we don't need that position, because we can actually do that ourselves, or that outside contract.
Right.
So I think it just made us a lot more efficient, and and I think that's a good thing to a
Yeah,
certain
we
degree.
probably all got a little bit chubby in the last few years. This is obviously the question that always comes up uh, in our circles, and I think in tourism in general. Is becoming Cancun or Barcelona inevitable of any successful tourism destination, or are there things we can do to slow it?
Yeah. Uh, I mean, you've been around Costa Rica as long as I have, and I remember those discussions in the '90s. It's like, oh my God, we're becoming Cancun and everything. Well, it hasn't happened yet, and I think a lot of it has to do with with something that we often complain about, but maybe there's some benefits to it. One, it's the cost structure. It's really expensive to operate here, so that scares people away that have a model of all inclusive, where like every penny that you save on the buffet counts. Well, buffet, maybe not, right? So I think our being, it is expensive to operate here. Costa Rica is an expensive country. I think that's something that's helps bring that pressure down. And the other thing is our incredible bureaucracy, right? It's really hard to to do business here, right?
Yeah,
And so I sometimes say, well, maybe our bureaucracy is one of the things that's really driving conservation in this country. That it's just really hard to get something done. So if somebody wants to do something, they have to work really, really hard,
yeah,
and some people just walk away and give up. So I mean, it sounds weird, we're expensive and we're bureaucratic, but maybe this is actually helps us to keep us more genuine.
yeah.
I don't know.
I think
So
you got to really want it, right?
yeah, you really gotta want it. If you want to do tourism, like some guys from the States called me the other day and said, we want to move to Costa Rica and do tourism. It's like, do you really want it?
Yeah,
It's like, well, we'll see.
yeah,
We'll see how they do.
yeah. When you go back to England and see
England? No,
I'm sorry,
not going back to
the
England.
other, I'm from the States. I don't even know where Europe is on the map. When you go back to Germany and see your friends, how would they say Costa Rica has changed you?
It's a good question. Um, I don't know. I think it hasn't changed me that much. I think it's, you I would say definitely one becomes more patient, related to what we talked before. So if before I need it now and I need it this way, you're like, okay, I realize it's gonna take a while, so just relax and take it easy. So I think patience is definitely one thing, but no, they haven't told me. Maybe they're just being nice to me, but I haven't really heard anything about how Costa Rica has changed me.
If you had the power to shape Costa Rica's tourism future, if this bureaucracy wasn't so bureaucratic, if you could implement a few things that maybe you've seen from best practices of other destinations, or when you're talking,
Mhm.
when you're
Mhm.
sharing ideas at global forums, what do you
Yeah.
wish? What do you wish we could get done here, or maybe could stop doing here? Where do you
Mhm.
think we need to go next?
I think if there's one thing that I could focus on, it's quality over quantity. I think Costa Rica is a small country that can provide incredible experiences, but we don't need to fill it up with cruise ships, all-inclusive hotels, that massive tourism. I just don't think it's necessary. I'd rather have uh, 10 tourists that spend $1,000 than 100 tourists that spend $10. I'd rather have higher paying jobs with opportunities than just people clearing plates
Hmm.
and not really having an opportunity. So I think it's quality over quantity. For a country like Costa Rica, I think that's the only way to do it.
Last question, Hans. and it's the metaphysical question. What is Pura Vida?
Yeah, what is Pura Vida? I think Pura Vida is everything, right? It's not just one thing. Sometimes I wake up early in one of the hotels, and then I walk out on the beach, or I walk up into the forest, and I feel, wow, this is Pura Vida. But in the end, everything is Pura Vida. It's also when things are not going right. You know how people say Pura Vida, even like you can say Pura Vida in a way that's like, okay, Pura Vida, like resignation. It's like, damn, I didn't make it. So it really is everything. It's there's just not one thing that's Pura Vida. It really just encompasses the whole package. So everything that we talked about, the good, the bad, the ugly, the different things, the things that stop things, the things that accelerate things, the things that are really make you hopeful, all of that packaged together, I think that's all Pura Vida.
Excellent. Well, Hans, I always love talking tourism with you. Best of luck in the recovery. And for
Thank
anybody
you.
that's even
Same to you.
thinking about buying or starting a hotel in Costa Rica, Panama, Nicaragua, if you don't call Hans first, you're crazy. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of
Thank
your
you,
weekend.
Casey. All right.
See you,
Thanks. Bye
Hans.
bye.
Let's talk tourism.